Welcome everybody to the May 5th special meeting of the Charter Revision Commission. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:40. Roll call, those of us here now, I think there may be some coming late, but we have Joe Bennett, Ivan Fairbairn, John Levin in person, Jim Clark and Carl Dickens are on Zoom. We have a couple who cannot come, some who may come late. We have enough to get going, so we will we'll go. We don't have minutes this evening. We'll do that at a later meeting. I don't see anybody in the attendee session on Zoom. We have one person here with us. Any interest in participating publicly, please do.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Taglione, 54 Van Zandt. I am a mayoral-elect, unaffiliated, the November Municipal. I've been following the charter revision. Thank you for having me. My main question was about minority party representation, but I understand that that has been tabled. Tyler, I want to thank you for actually getting transparency in the portal. I've been checking that out, and you made true to your statement of greater transparency and information for interested constituents, which I might be the only one right now at this moment. Attorney Mednick, I did some freelance work for the Secretary of State's Department this past winter, in which we did a town mapping covering basically all the boards, commissions, task force. So I might have read most of your work. I'm like your #1 fan. I covered 50 charters. I have about 100 municipalities. Hamden and Fairfield were particularly interested in their progressive approaches. I just want to touch base and say hi, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. So we'll double check.
For the record, unfortunately, the Fairfield charter failed 2 years ago. It was a really terrific revision, but got caught up in the buzzsaw of partisan politics.
Yeah. What would be partisan about a charter?
John will talk about it over drinks when we're done. It's yeah, multiple drinks. I will point out.
One side turned out with more voters.
Well,
Wow,
it's not even that. It was yeah. We'll talk about it another time. But it was.
I'll join you guys for a couple of drinks.
Absolutely, it was the most partisan charter this side of Stanford, which wasn't partisan, was an intra-party battle in Stanford, but it was the most partisan charter I've ever been involved in. But we'll talk about it another time.
And that was Fairfield 2024?
2022 or 3. They did another one this year. I haven't, they did it in-house, so I was not involved. And it was, I don't know how far they went on it. I'd be curious to see what they're doing with it, but it was a massive restructuring, but it was really well done. But you know, what can you do? They don't all pass. So Tyler, you want me to start walking through this?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to acknowledge quickly that we have Ed's joined us on Zoom, and Doug is here. So we ended up with a pretty full crew. Yeah, Steve, if you wouldn't mind. So I think we'll if you want to go through the action items sequentially. I don't know if it makes sense to vote on them as we go or to vote on them as a package.
I'll leave it up to the body. But what I was going to do, because I thought it would be easier to go through the documents sequentially, so that we don't have to go back and forth. But I'm going to also take some stops on memory lane to let you know a couple of other things. Tyler and I, if you go to the beginning of the document, for some reason it's page 3, it should probably be page 1, but whatever, it's the 2023 Charter Revision Commission setting the context statement. And I mentioned to Tyler, I asked Tyler whether or not we're going to want to change this section. And this might be a project that we could take on, assuming that this charter is going to come back to us sometime end of June, early July. But the prior chair of the commission felt it was important because it had been the first substantial charter revision in many, many years. And it really was a massive transformation from the 1913 charter to the 2023 charter, that this statement was relevant. And so I'll ask all of you just to look at it, Tyler to look at it, to see whether we should update it. It's not a bad historical statement to have in there, and maybe it's worthy of updating. To talk about.
I did, yeah, I'm sorry, I should have gone back to you on that, Steve, but I do think that it is worth keeping in, but just updating. I think it's relevant for somebody who's looking at a revised charter to understand when and why and what might have, quick summary of what might have changed, so. We can look into rewriting that. I don't think it needs a total overhaul. But tweak it a little bit, to reference what we've been doing here in
So if
2020.
you want to take that on, Mr.
Yeah, I'm
Chair,
happy to.
And any other suggestions people may have. So I wanted to stop there because I thought it's something we should look at. So the first substantive change is in the definitions, 2-2B9. Really 7 and 9, because we actually made some changes. The capital budget definition, I think we flipped it around. It was in the wrong place, but there's a substantial change to capital improvement plan that we talked about at the last meeting. The finance director was here, and we used the modified language that he had recommended. And so that's an item that we would have to vote on this evening. I've marked it as item number 1. Should I pass and then we can just take them all together, or do you want to stop now and vote on it?
I'm sorry, Steve, so what section again, what?
Oh, this is the definitions, 2-2B9, capital improvement plan.
In Article 10 or?
No, it's in section 2-2. Remember,
I
starting
gotcha.
at the beginning.
Let me just make 2, okay, sorry, I was in the wrong.
It's, in the packet, it's page 18, if anyone wants. to
Yeah,
test
for
it
us,
out.
it's page 11, so it's 2-2B10 is,
B9,
2-2B9, yeah.
capital improvement plan.
Page
And-
10.
And I'd also
Yes.
point out in B7, there was a minor definitional change. We were still calling it the 5-year program of capital expenditures. And it's simply the capital improvement plan. So the changes are in 7 and 9. Should we hold those, or do you want to vote on them right now?
Can we,
sorry, go ahead.
may I suggest that we just go through them and just any explanation, like a brief explanation, and then just vote on them as we go, if they're, because otherwise we're not gonna,
Yeah, I'm afraid, it's-
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's what I suggest too. So everything's top of mind when we vote on it.
Absolutely.
So does somebody want to move it, or?
Yeah, no, I'll move it, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to make this harder, but I just wanted to, I'm not sure how many changes we're talking about.
There's about 10 different subject matters. Some of them have multiple parts. So this is perfectly fine, Ed.
Okay.
I gave you the choice.
We'll vote on each of the subject matters, right?
Yeah, that makes sense, right, yeah, kind of in
Okay,
tranches.
so
So you want to vote
It
on,
is-
well, then let me add, 7 and 9, those are the only changes. Let me just point out later on in this chapter, the finance director, the CFO has not gotten back to me on the definition of operating budget. So we're going to hold that item for the next meeting, where we're going to come up with one definition for the operating budget. We had 2 competing definitions, and we're trying to finalize a definition. So the only changes in the definitions would be this one right here, 7 for capital budget, which eliminates the old title, and 9 for the definition of capital improvement plan.
Okay. Ed has made the motion to accept those. All in favor?
Right, so can we just number them, so we got it for the record, is that number 7?
7 and 9.
7,
Ed?
2-2B,
Right,
7 and 9.
I'm just trying to make sure, because we got it on the record.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. 2-2B, 7 and 9. All in favor of the changes as laid out in the documents these provided? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Moving forward, you'll see a number of Scrivener's corrections and erratas. You'll see number 25, there's still the issue of operating budget, which we'll bring up at the next meeting.
Okay,
So there's nothing to vote on there.
okay.
The next change, even though you see public official underlined, it's only because I moved it into its proper alphabetical place. I don't think we need to vote on that. It looks like a change, but it's not. The next change, well, we don't have it for a while, but the next thing I wanted to bring to your attention,
That's basically.
is 3-4 A. I don't think we need to vote on this. I have my notes that this was approved on April 15th. It's 3-4 A, the Common Council.
Mhm.
Jim, what page on your,
That's page, on our packet, it's page 35, Counselor.
Version 27.
okay, and this simply, yeah, this simply, we talked about it and we did approve it. I just wanted to let you know it still shows up here as a change, that it will be created by ordinance following the reapportionment is required in 3-4A3. The idea was, I think the vice chair wanted to make sure that somewhere in writing, these districts will exist and the ordinances are the right place for it to be.
Okay.
So there's no need to vote because that was voted on in the past. The next change is one of those back of the document changes, and this is going to be it's in the board of it's in the Common Council section, which unfortunately is got a lot of footnotes, so it is broken up. It's in section 4-4B. I'm sorry, C rather, 4-4C, 3, lowercase c.
Hold on, 4,
See, so for us, that's 43 if the paper.
4 dash, oh, okay, I'm having a hard time.
It's
finding
just above 4-5. And this was appeal language that was in the prior charter. And the folks in the town, in the Corporation Counsel's office recommended that we keep it. So we moved it into the section under the Common Council that talks about laying out, constructing, and maintaining sewers. And this is the assessment for them. And the grievance is established in B, and the appeal is established in C. And they think that this is a process that still works, and therefore we're retaining it in the charter. So it's basically moving it from the charter to, from the back of the charter in current chapter section, it's 179, section 14-4, 3, and it's moved to this section, which is 4-4.
May I ask you a question, on page 56, C, where it's entitled appeal?
Yeah,
Is there a reason in line 3 why the word days is capitalized? Is that
because it's a defined term
within the
within
thing?
the charter.
Okay, all right.
That's what. And on the next page, if you want to take these together, this section, subparagraph 5, was moved from the back of the document from 14-2E. And this simply gives the council the ability to delegate to the chief financial officer other budgetary and governmental functions not inconsistent with other provisions of this charter. They wanted to keep that. I don't think it was necessary, but they wanted to keep it, and that's where I recommend that they move it. So if you want to deal with those two sections, I would recommend.
Hey, Steve, just to clarify, these are sections that are being moved from one location of the document to another, but there's no other changes to the wording. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, understood.
John, we had these sections, chapters 13 and 14, that were being held because we didn't have time to eliminate some of those old historical provisions. And we're keeping much more of the language than I was hoping, as you'll see in a few moments. But I'm going to be recommending that we put some transitional language in to give them another shot at getting some of this stuff out. For the time being, we're going to get rid of chapters 13 and 14, and most of it's gone. Most of it's going to be gone, but far more than I expected to remain is still in the charter, and that would be subsection 5. And I may visit that with the council when this goes over to the council. So it would be adding the subsection on appeal and subsection 5, which deals with delegation of further authorities to the CFO by the council.
Can I ask you a question about 5, just before 4-5? So
Yep.
you're retaining the power to delegate the chief financial officer, to the chief financial officer, other budgetary and governmental functions not inconsistent with other provisions of this charter. And you said that wouldn't be necessary because it stands to reason that that would be the case anyway.
They can already do that, I think, in my view.
Right. And what kinds of things might they be referring to?
I have no idea. I mean, it could be any. I would hope they wouldn't be getting into the weeds and saying this is the kind of format that you need to use to provide this type of report to us, but it might be something more significant and saying we want these types of reports. We want a report that shows comparative data on a weekly basis as opposed to a monthly basis, or on a monthly basis instead of a quarterly basis. It's more likely to be something like that, which I think they have the power to do anyhow. But
Right.
you know,
So-
and so I'll bring that up to the council when if you pass it tonight, I will bring that up to the council, and you may see this section coming out because I just think that it was the easy way out for, so.
Well, the easy way out was not to argue or to challenge it or to suggest.
Well,
it.
I guess we both took the easy way out. They took the easy way out by saying, let's keep it. And I took the easy way out by not getting into a battle with them over it.
I got you.
Yeah. So, so I will bring this up when we go to the council if you pass it. If they have a stronger reason, let them express it to the council. And that's what I was just not persuaded that there was a need for this, but that's okay.
Hey, Steve,
Yes, sir.
do you have the ability, as you go through this stuff, to bring it up on the screen, the section? Because we're all just trying to flip through and find everything at the same time.
It's like.
I think it would help a little. We knew exactly, 14-4, 4-14, you gotta go through about 5 pages to find what
Yeah.
4
it's a long one.
started. It was just.
So let me see if I can share.
I think we're all working off of different versions.
Yes, I know.
They're digital.
Are you sharing your screen, Steve? Is that what you're gonna do?
We got a new one.
What's that?
Are you sharing your
This was given
screen?
to me.
I'm going to try to share the screen. I'm having a logistical problem.
That'd be
here.
great.
Sure. Okay, sorry.
It's largely the same.
That would even help more, because we're working.
We're singing from different song sheets.
Well,
I am happy to share.
Okay.
This excellent document.
got 3 screens here and I cannot get to the screen that has the screen share on it. Let's see something here.
So if you got the screen up with all the boxes, just do a scroll down. You'll see it appear with the green thing in the middle, share.
No, I got it.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I come to the right document. 12.03. Yeah, this should be it.
Ah, there you go.
So you have it in front of you?
Yeah,
We do, thanks.
Yes,
Steve.
we do. Or I do.
All right, let me let me get my keyboard. It's gonna be a logistical nightmare for me, but that's okay. We'll figure it out.
You on page 57, I think.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm gonna have to get, this is the clean version. We need the red, do you need the red line or?
It's
The
helpful.
red line was, I think, the one we were looking at last week, right? The
Yeah,
one, the one that
You have a
says.
You're
one that
working
says
with a clean
post-
version?
The one that says post 4/29/25, that's the printed version that Esther had here.
12.03, just before post 0429.
It does not, no, it doesn't have a version number on any of these that we have here.
Mm-mm.
Is it clean or is it red line?
The one that we had for today, this is post 4/29/25 is not red line, it just
All
notes the
right, then
changes.
we'll work with that. We'll work with
Oh,
that. I'd sent
Mine's
a,
redlined.
Yeah, mine is too.
I sent a red line. I sent a red line.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is,
mine-
okay, no, it is.
We fixed Doug's
Uh,
landscape.
Yeah,
It's not,
And-
I mean, it's partially.
and it does have Doug's last name fixed, but that was correct on the earlier.
It was wrong on the last version. So I'm gonna pull the red line up. Is the
Thank
red
you.
line, are you observing it right now?
Well, I don't
See me
see a
flipping
redlined
through it?
section, so.
No, but you see me flipping through a document?
We don't see you flipping,
No.
it's just still on the.
All right.
We're looking at the same thing as before.
All right, let me get that down.
So many screens, so little time.
No, I've got 3 screens here, so it's a little bit of a challenge. Okay, so let me see if I can get the. Here we go.
This
This should be it.
It is written.
All right, do you see a document now?
I do with some red in there, yep. Mhm.
All right, and so we were in,
That's what I got last.
We were just before 4.5.
So quick inquiry, where are we in the document, please?
all right, I'm trying to do 2 things here at one time. We're in 4 dash, just above section 4-5.
Right,
Did you say 4-1 or 5?
5.
All right. Here's where we are.
Yeah.
So it's these 2 paragraphs. It's the paragraph on appeal, which doesn't show up. It showed up in the last document as a red line. This document just shows the changes between the last document and this document. So that's the appeal section that was moved from the back of the document. And this is the section that Ed and I were just talking about, where the council has the ability to delegate to the CFO other budgetary and governmental functions not inconsistent with other provisions of this charter. So those are the 2 sections that I'm suggesting you take action on.
The 44C5. Right,
Page 48.
Yep,
on page 48, and the other one was 3483.
it's 4C 3C.
Oh, wow.
44C3.
3 lowercase c.
Yeah.
And this one is 4-4C5.
Yep.
I would suggest take those together if you can.
Do we need any more discussion on those, or do we have a motion to approve 44C3C and 44C5?
I'll make the motion to accept.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I can't see Ed or Carl or Jim.
Oh,
Aye.
sorry, could you see me?
Yeah, I got you now. Any
Okay.
opposed? Any abstentions? Because that's unanimous. All right,
So I'm going to get to the next section in a second. Verification. Okay. All right, so the next one is in the referendum section. 4-10,
And page 52.
it's exactly where it is, 4-10. I don't think we have changes till a few pages down the line. All these were John's that were approved on April 1st. I think the change is in subsection G. I'll get there in a second.
Or 10A, we made a change.
A and B.
We already voted on these.
No, we voted on those. That's why I'm going to G. I don't think G was voted on. Oh, it was approved. Okay.
Steve, on that
No,
last vote, the only, I do have it, I'm a little uneasy, just maybe we can, when you have the conversation with the common council, that if you say that you're retaining, rights that you already have, it seems to me that you're possibly creating a precedent, that you're limiting yourself to those rights that you probably would retain anyway, that you haven't specifically stated that you still retain. So they're kind of boxing themselves in if they, by retaining that, but by saying that we specifically retain the right that we should have in any event. So that was my only.
Well, yeah, I will talk, we still have two more, as you'll see in a moment, two more sections that I haven't gotten final answers on. I will raise this with the people I've been talking to see if we could get it resolved, and maybe take it out. But I wanted to act on it because it was there. So G we already acted on. H is where the change is. They're minor changes. It was an action item 2.1 in the last week, and the change basically, I don't know why I didn't do this as Scrivener's changes, because that's what they are. I capitalized elector and city in that section. I don't know why I put it on as an action item, but that's because I was trying to throw a lot of those into there. So the change in H is basically that we use the defined terms and capitalize them. So that's that change.
Does that need a vote for acceptance if it's just that?
I probably not, but I just wanted to, I put it in because I for whatever reasons, put it in an action item. It probably shouldn't have been in the action item.
Okay.
All right. So the next, hopefully this really is a substantive vote. Yeah. We're going to go to 6-3. I know I brought this up several times, but for whatever reason, it still showed up here. And I want to make sure we take a definitive vote. Unless we were holding it for another reason. This is that pesky section on constables. I don't know why. I still have it in there as, I think we did say that we were going to retain it, and I guess I don't know whether we actually technically voted on that.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what I'm looking for, is a definitive vote that we're retaining the section.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I know we had discussed it, and my understanding was that we intended to do it, but we should vote on it this evening. So,
Good.
do we have a motion to retain 6-3 powers and duties of constables
And 6-4 as well.
and
Well, we weren't,
I'd like a separate vote.
I think they're two separate things.
Yeah, I think the
Okay.
constable
I didn't have that one
should
noted.
be separate
All right, so
vote. Duties.
you're voting on
6.3 or 6.1.
It was my device listening to you and responding.
all right,
Scary.
we can we combine these in one vote? And we did that with some of the other ones. Because we're retaining
Yeah.
6-3 and 6-4.
And let me ask you a
Well,
question about
let
that.
me answer, do we need even a vote to retain it? If we're not touching it, we're not touching it, right? Do they need a
Well,
vote?
but
It's already
yeah,
there.
but the issue came up though, right?
Okay.
The issue did come up. that-
debated, and I just think for clarity, you should take an action that you're
Yeah.
retaining.
My-
You're rejecting the idea that it should be removed, basically.
My only concern about these two positions is that whatever the state statutes has to do with constables, that's fine. I don't know that there's a state statute relating to the duties of a sheriff, but either way, they both perform similar functions, I think. My only concern is that they make our ballots
Routed.
two-sided. Perhaps unnecessarily because the duties are so limited and so. I mean, I don't know any lawyer that uses a constable, but I suppose it does happen, or a sheriff. So that's my only objection is that, and it's not really an objection, it's like, I think we want to simplify things, and from an electoral point of view, having a ballot that's one-sided is easier than having one that's two-sided. And these positions tend to create a two-sided ballot because you have to vote on these things as well as the things that are of more.
Yeah.
common.
So I will, so
If
I'll
I
tell you the
may-
last time this went around and around the horn. As we'd mentioned before, the sheriff's position was kept for a reason.
Can you
Yeah,
please state the
because-
reason?
It was because of the sheriff that was there.
Yeah, that's, so can I
And
just
the
say something?
constable's positions, we determined they really are normally functions that are paid for by an attorney. If I want to serve you papers on somebody, I pay somebody to do it. Or the constable can also, you can also have the police department serve eviction notices and papers and so on and so forth. So it was kind of deemed the last time around that the constable position, and they don't carry a firearm, they're not trained, they don't have that, is just something that is held over from a long time ago that's not needed in the current charter.
But also the constables serve the function of marshals in terms of service of documents, and marshals are what most lawyers use, I think. Constables are limited to service within a town. Marshals can serve outside of a town. They're not limited by a geographic location. That's the only difference, but most people use marshals for that reason. So,
So you were
Constables
saying
are
there
used
again,
by
there's
the
no need
probate
for a
courts.
constable.
Yeah, they're used by the probate courts. What I might suggest is, as the members who were on this commission 2 years ago will remember, we did have at the public hearing those people who were affected and they made their arguments. If you think, and Carl did point out the principal rationale for keeping the sheriff's position, if you want to see these go away, my recommendation would be to make it effective. A lot depends on what the term of office is that we're going to be approving, if we're going to go beyond the 2 years. But let's say you keep the 2-year term. This is 2025. Maybe make it effective the election of 2029, that these would no longer be on the ballot. If you want to see it, if there's a political reason to keep them for the time being, and no reason beyond that, you might be able to devolve the position that way. That's a practical resolution, or just get rid of them. That's the other option.
Yeah, I don't think there was the last time around, Stephen. I don't think there was a political reason to keep the constables. In fact, I think they ended up back in there for what reason, I'm not quite sure, but I mean, I think we all pretty well said we don't need constables anymore in the charter.
There were a couple of constables who were there,
That showed up at a public meeting.
yeah, at a public meeting, who made a compelling case that they had a lot of work, at least 2 of them, as I remember. So they were probably very aggressive in getting the work. In Fairfield, where they tried to deal with this issue, it was really a function that was used by the probate court more than anybody else.
how was it
but,
used by the probate court?
They were using constables in probate court.
But I mean, in what capacity? How were they?
Service of notices and process for probate courts.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah, and
Okay.
look, Carl, or somebody made the point, just because it's not in the charter doesn't mean you can't adopt an ordinance to deal with it.
To still
So-
have them, right?
Ooh, clever.
Exactly.
So-
right.
Carl, I'm just wondering, I know you stated the reason for retaining the sheriff position.
I'm not going to say that now.
I'm sorry?
I'm not gonna give the reason.
Oh, no, you said that it's because of the
Yeah.
sheriff who was there, and which I
The
just simply
sheriff, the
don't.
sheriff who currently held office, who I think got reelected, right?
He did get reelected.
Yeah.
He did get reelected, yeah.
And I just don't understand that as a
Well,
reason.
probably for the same reason why you won't say why you think the police commissioners committed some kind of problems. We've yet to hear what the problems were that they committed.
Yeah, okay, can we, if we're gonna, we have to push off operating budget definition anyway. Can we revisit the constables and the sheriffs at that meeting? I know Rick had strong feelings on that and he's not here this evening, so if we're gonna move one thing, I think we could add that to the thing to address at the next meeting, if that's okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
If you want to go to the sections, it refers to CGS and state about constables, 9-200, 7-92, and 9-185. It is in there. The summary is that they have the power serve papers more during the regular municipal election 2-year term, or they can be appointed. Carry out civil duties, serving the warrants and civil processes. Law enforcement functions. All right, so I'm saying there's a whole section want a reference to it when we write the constables up, so we can reference to the state statute.
Okay.
So that's I assume the act that because that's what they fall under. We have, Yeah.
So why are these positions in the charter then?
well, it's in the charter that they have to be elected.
Because
So you
they're
can
elected
elect them or
positions.
appoint them.
Okay, right.
That's why they're in there,
Okay.
if that's the question.
Unless you don't want them at all.
I will tell you, we also invited constables to come in
We-
last time and asked them what their duties were in their job. Several didn't know.
So, I mean, given that they can be appointed, that means they don't have to be elected.
But you have to keep the position there.
But Steve just said the position can be created by ordinance.
I'm sorry I started this conversation. I was just, but if we can put this off like Tyler suggests to a different.
Yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to bring up the fact that that's it. I would never-
No, and it's good to know for background, we'll look into it for the next time.
and I just answer one question. One of the reasons they're probably in the charter is back in 1913, there might not have been a statute. And-
Right.
And all towns had constables and they probably wore big high hats like the Pope. So not to,
Yeah, some
I agree with that.
of them back in those days, Stephen, could act as judges.
there you go.
One party got 3 and the other one got 4. That's the way it
All
was.
right.
Trust me.
All right. I hope I'm not getting you dizzy by doing this, but let me,
That was there in
I wasn't
1913.
1930, but if you ever read some of the stuff behind the scenes.
7-1.
So we'll revisit this at
We'll
the
revisit
next.
that, that's on the list to revisit along with the operating budget definition, so.
All right, 7-1. So the first changes are in subsection B. Here,
E.
subsection B, administrative requirements of boards and commissions.
It
No,
says
this
B
says it
on
was
the
approved
screen. B is in boy.
right here.
Yeah.
B. That's
I
what I
just
said.
said D,
B,
B,
B, as in boy,
boy,
or bellicose. The,
or Belichick.
Belichick.
Jeez.
And so the changes in here, which don't show up, they showed up, although it says approved by the CRC, I guess the stagger was approved by the CRC. And then we had new language that was the term of office shall not be less than 2 years. If you see that in B1,
Yes.
that less than 2 years is new. In your last version, it showed as an underscore. And so that's one of the things you'd be approving here. The other thing you'd be approving is in B2. This is the section, if you recall, in the current charter, you have to have an ordinance, and the ordinance has to have these provisions. And as I think I told you with egg on my face, that when we created the reapportionment commission, we neglected to follow the charter. And so what we thought made greater sense than to have to put each one of these things in every ordinance is to say that these provisions are applicable to all boards and commissions. And that's what B2 basically does. It takes it from a situation where you have to put these in an ordinance to all commissions are responsible for these provisions. We did take out here a reference, again, since it was an ordinance, it doesn't need to be here, is that the ordinance needed to show compliance with minority party representation, but we already have that provision in here in subsection 7, you'll see on the next page. So that language was deleted as well. And on the next page under B2, 4, or some sort of B2.
Before.
B4.
B2D, we had language in the current charter that says that the frequency of regular meetings has to be dealt with of all boards and commissions for the purpose of establishing a standard required by 7-1E2. And I took out language that basically said, if there's an ordinance that governs, if there's no ordinance, the board or commission has to establish rules. What this language says is that you got to establish a standard. So it didn't make, it was kind of redundant to say that it should be dealt with in two different ways. And although it does still allow for an ordinance to govern it generally, if that's what people want to do. So that simply simplifies the language that frequency of regular meetings is a subject that needs to be established. A standard needs to be established because, as you recall, one of the reasons for removing a member is failure to attend meetings regularly. And so the commission needs to establish a standard for that. In subsection 4, it's relatively close to this. Tyler, have you had a discussion with anybody on that yellow language?
No. No, that's news to me.
Yeah, an issue was raised by somebody in City Hall indicating that they thought this is a standard where you say, look, you need to have meetings. If you're going to have a board or commission, you
Yeah.
need to meet regularly and you can't put meetings off. In one of my charters, and it's in this charter right now, this is current language, it says you can't cancel meetings for 2 consecutive months. Somebody raised the issue with me, well, what if they don't have business to do? I suppose you could establish a standard there. I didn't think the 2 months was unreasonable. But
No,
since
I
somebody raised it, I wanted to highlight it and see what your thoughts were.
So what is what is the penalty if they don't, right? If a board or a commission cancels 3 months in a row, who's punished and how?
It's ignominy. It's basically, you're enemies of the people is what it is. I mean, the reason we keep this,
Constables will come.
the constables will come and raid your home.
There you go.
No, there really is no punishment other than it's an objective. The objective is to make sure that meetings are not canceled.
Yeah, I
and that
think
people take,
it must not cancel for 2 consecutive, I mean, you have to at least meet every other month.
All right.
It's reasonable.
So I'll take the yellow out of that section. We don't need to worry
We
about that.
will vote on it, but so that's what we're adding.
Yeah.
into the-
Yep, that'll
You
be an
could
item we vote.
Steve, this is also, can I say this out? You can post a meeting, not have a quorum, and the chairman can say, okay,
Yeah.
meeting adjourned.
On your way,
We don't have a quorum, correct?
That is correct.
So,
or you post the meeting and just ask.
yeah, you show up, nobody else show up, and there you go. That's what I'm saying. You just,
But at least you,
can't open the meeting, we don't have a quorum. can't
All
have
right,
action At a meeting.
the last change is in the public record section, where it said each clerk is required. And I changed the language to each board or commission is required. I don't remember, I made that as a scrivener's correction. It came up in another town. I always thought that when it says each clerk, I don't know if every one of your boards or commissions has a clerk. But if they don't, then the board or commission is responsible for working with the city clerk to make sure that these records are complete and that they're placed somewhere and I just replaced the language clerk with board or commission. It's more of a Scrivener's edit, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. So those are the items in this section.
So it's 7.4 and 7.6, correct? Did I miss another one? I mean, the
Well,
other
no,
one-
you're going, I would go back to 7.1-B2, 4, and 6.
7
Can you scroll up, please?
B. B.
Two, right, this section right here. This is where we,
7.1.
we took out the reference to minority party representation. We made it not an ordinance, but that the provisions are applicable to all boards and commissions. And we took out some extraneous language in subsection D, and simply put that that they're responsible for establishing standards for the frequency of meetings unless otherwise set forth by ordinance.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve the changes to 7.1, B2, 7.4, and 7.6? Doug, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's hear Carl, Jim and Ed,
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so that is unanimous.
All right, a lot of Scrivener's changes, but I'm gonna point out one correction that I thought you guys should see. I spelled the word coterminously correctly now. You see that?
thank you.
It's not conterminously anymore in both places.
Thank you.
As the president would say on both sides, there it is, coterminously.
I told you I looked that
and-
up last time.
I know you did. I know you did. And I'm sorry that you had to spend your time looking it up.
Like, what the heck?
That's time you're never gonna get back, Jim. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, it's all right.
You know, our lives are, okay. The next is 8-2. It's not a major change. At least I don't think it is. 8-2 A2 here. In the current charter,
Page
8-2, let me just
Uh,
make sure. No, this is not.
Page 91 on the printout.
Steve,
Yeah,
can
yeah, here it is.
to
In the current charter, we use the term classified employees, and I was told that that's not a term that we necessarily want to use. It's a term of art, but it wasn't necessarily something we wanted to do. It's not a term used in Norwalk,
I'm sure.
people I've talked to. So, you want to take that as a separate action item? There's nothing else in this section.
Sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, we can, the only other thing in this section and I thought I had it on my list to discuss at the next meeting was the 8-2,
Library?
the library, wherever, 8-2, A3M, whatever, the library director is the last one, which I think you know, we had heard from Moina and there seemed to be some agreement to have just that one changed to include language that says in consultation, the library director shall be selected in consultation, selected by the mayor in consultation with the library board. But I mean, maybe we add that to the list of things for next time.
Yes, thank you. I would appreciate that.
Do we have any, so if we can discuss that briefly, is anybody opposed to, after hearing from Moina, changing 8-2 A3M to, well, Steve, I don't know what we want to do there. Do you want to?
We create a new, we created
Did you
new
bring it up?
subsection
It's-
4 so that it would be appointed by the mayor, subject to recommendation by the board, the library, whatever the board's called, the library board, and it would just be the one position, library
Yeah.
director. So it'd be a new category, and then we move.
I think it would need to be a new
Or-
category, so it would be
Yeah.
8-2 A5.
A2A3 or A2A5 is what it
Yeah,
would be.
A5.
Yeah,
So it's
4 or
not
5.
in, so it's not in consultation, it's based on a recommendation by the board? That's so those.
Well,
are
it's in consultation, I think. I'm sorry.
Is it?
I think it
consultation?
was,
I don't know.
I-
Tyler?
yeah, I think for that, I think kind of where the middle ground on that was that it, you know, you're not entirely restricting the mayor, but you would say the library would be, the library director would be selected by the mayor in consultation with the library board.
That's what I thought.
Did Moya propose specific language or was this just a general discussion?
She had proposed specific language and we had discussed the specific language. And I think it was deemed that it was maybe a little restrictive to say that the mayor has to select from a list that the library board presents. So I think what we would say was that the library director is selected in consultation with the library board.
Have we been able to see the specific language that she proposed?
She emailed it. It was like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
She asked
Do we-
me, I said, it was sent
Yeah,
around.
she did.
Do we know what in consultation means?
I'm seeing specific language for proposed.
Well, you got the specific language, but it's not, I mean, Moyna is not putting the specific language in. I mean,
Do we
it's
know
how-
what in consultation means? Is there a definition section of what consultation means?
It's whatever the parties want it to mean.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wait,
So the
I just-
mayor can work it out. The mayor can work out an arrangement with the board. He could say to them, give me 3 names and I'll pick from the 3 names. He could say, give me 3 names. And if I don't like them, give me 3 more names. He could say, give me a name and I'll respect your choice because I love the library.
Or he can
mean-
say, here's a name and let me know what you
It-
think. And if you don't agree, then it's.
Exactly,
It's still
yeah.
my choice. It's
which
still
is
my
essentially
decision.
what's happening now. I
Yeah.
mean, Moyna didn't indicate that there was any problem with what's happening now. I think it's just that the library board want it codified in the charter.
Well, yeah.
It's a
So
loose standard, Ed. It's a loose
I'm-
standard. It's not.
my
a-
question repeats, did Moyna propose specific language?
She
I
did.
don't
It
propose
was
it.
circulated. So
Okay.
John, check your email.
Is it, okay, is it accessible to us now? Or can maybe?
Well, I thought you're putting this off for the next meeting, so.
We'll push it off to the next meeting anyway, but I'll tell you.
Which is
exactly-
fine. If we can push it off for the next meeting, then I will look for it. And as you said, I will find it.
Out of the respect for the mayor's office, not any mayor's office, that the more wiggle room you have in there, I think the better.
Correct. And that's why I think the middle ground was that we weren't gonna use her language. Her language.
I agree, that's the word. I
Right, the
always-
specific language she wanted was. The mayor shall appoint the library director in consultation with the library board of directors from a list of not less than 3 candidates nominated by them. So I think that where we meet in the middle is that the charter now will say that the mayor is to consult with the library board. But the mayor is not obligated to choose from these specific lists that the library board gives him.
That has no effect. I mean, that ignores her requested change and basically leaves it exactly as it is now.
But the way it is now is what's happening anyway.
Mhm.
Is they're consulting. with the
understood.
board.
Well,
right.
not quite, John, because now it's explicitly putting language in the
We're adding
charter
it to the charter, which is what they've
that
asked.
kind of honors how we're doing it now.
But this
So-
was this was my point last time, right? Which is that if we put in there, the mayor has to choose from this list of 3 that the library board of directors gives them. And the mayor says, I don't like this list. And the board is not gonna be flexible about it, then the mayor clears out the board with his or her selections and puts in their own. And
Presumably, right?
And
Oh, no.
then,
They have nobody. The mayor has to appoint it.
right, so
So
I'm saying.
he
if
doesn't want anybody unless you got nobody.
You got nobody and now the mayor
How nice.
does what they wanna do. So
So-
I think it's a good compromise to
Yeah, I agree.
they've asked to have something in here in the charter saying that the mayor's to consult with the board. We're gonna add that and leave it at that without being over
Agreed.
restricted.
If you've had this discussion, you want to take a vote on it?
Yes,
Or
I mean-
fix something that's not broke.
Yes.
It's a
and now that
minor
we've
improvement.
discussed it, I'm fine with taking the vote.
I'm fine with the vote. I'd like to have it a week from now. Just, I wanted
Oh, okay.
to check in and
Okay,
follow up on this question.
we will push off I'm sorry, do we need to vote on Steve, on the 8?
I want you
A2?
to look at 8-2.
Let's vote on
A2.
8.2A2.
Move it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Doug moves it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so that was unanimous and we are going to add to the list for next week, the language for 82A3M. 82A3M is gonna be next meeting.
Also, there's a typo that we missed last week that I just want, I'd like to have it corrected. It
Yeah.
is 7-2-A-3B,
7-2,
which on the updated package would be page 77. It says to a term of 4 years commencing on the at day of February, and it should be instead first day instead of at day.
this is
Se-
under political and geographic balance, under the
Correct.
BET,
Yep.
one member. Oh, here it is, the first day, got it. Got it. Thank
3B,
you.
yeah,
Good
at day
catch.
should be first
Good
day.
catch. Got it,
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
Christ.
If you wanna
I
see when it's
I thought I
emailed,
caught those
March
things.
24th.
That's a hard one to catch, but thank you,
March 24th.
Thanks, Sean.
Mr. Levin, I'm glad you're actually reading the document. The next change, whoops, is, it's right here, it's G. It's not a substantive change. Let me see if there's anything else in it that I'm missing. I think it's the only thing. Yeah, so here there was language. The way it reads right now is when every appointee of the council, when required by the council, must. I don't know how many appointees there are of the council. I know the ethics board is appointed by the council. I just simplified it, or I recommend that we simplify it to simply say that every appointee must, before the appointee enters into the duties of office, take the oath, as opposed to when required by the council. So I just thought it simplified it. It was a simple change I couldn't understand. I don't know why they need a separate oath for council appointees, but it's in the charter, and I thought that simple change would be hopefully acceptable. There's a next page, there's a change on the next page. I don't know if you want to take them together. They're not related, but there's relatively minor changes. Let me get back to this. In 8-3 B, at the end of that sentence, there was language that the council determines the number of attorneys, their qualifications, their respective terms, and their compensation. And there was language subject to the approval of the Board of Finance, of Estimate and Taxation. And I was told by the Director of Finance, or the CFO, that isn't here and that's not the way it's done. So we were taking the language out that required BET approval of the compensation of the Corporation Council. So those are two changes on consecutive pages. I don't know if you want to take them together or separately.
Yeah, we could do those in one, so it would be, it's 8-2G, right?
Yep.
May I
And
ask
it's
a
just got the
question?
language. Yeah, yes.
Sorry, I have a quick question about that. Isn't the BET responsible for line item approval of the budget and the Common Council for the cap?
That is correct, but when it comes to compensation, there's an executive compensation plan that is approved by the council, I am told, not by the
Gotcha.
BET.
I didn't know
And
that.
so in the budget itself, you're right. But in terms of setting the compensation, it's the council function.
Understood. Okay.
All right.
Okay, so it's 8-2G and 8-3B, we're gonna combine for approval.
Is there any change to the oath? I'm a little bit confused about what was done.
No, the only change, I thought I explained it, but maybe I didn't. There was language in the oath that said every appointee of the council, when required by the council, must, before they serve, take the oath. I took when required by the council out,
Yep.
so that every appointee has to take the oath.
Understood. Great.
So there was no substantive
That's good.
change. Yeah,
Okay, so Do we have a motion for 82G and 83B?
So move.
All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. Where to next, Steve?
Excuse me, I just had to imbibe for a second on a brand new glass of iced tea, very delicious. Sorry. Let me just point, this is a more of a editorial comment. 8-4, you'll see at the next meeting, I will deal with the sections on finance. You can see I still have the historical transition provision because there's some other language that they had suggested that we're looking at, and we're going to figure out what to do with it. I think I know where we're going to go with it, but I didn't want to bring it up at this meeting. I'll bring it up for the next meeting so that we can resolve it then. There is language in here in finance. This language, special act authority, that we're moving from section 14-2D, that the finance director actually thought still was useful. And so we would be moving it from the back of the charter, from section 14-2 to this section of the charter, section 8-4 B4.
That paragraph seems to have, I've read that paragraph and it seems to have some either grammatical or spelling errors or something. I would ask you to please maybe revisit the paragraph just to make sure that it makes sense. It's a very long sentence at the beginning there.
All right, I'll take a look at it. So we'll hold
Okay.
that item. We'll hold that item.
Yep.
The next section, and I'll show you what I did in this one, because this is the first section where I actually put a proviso. Okay, this is the section. Come on, Steve. Subsection D on purchasing agent. You'll see that I deleted the historical transition provision because ostensibly we are addressing the issue of historical provisions. In this case, we moved over 4 paragraphs. But what I did was the following, and again, I will bring this up with the council. And that should be a capital P in purchasing agent. I did bring language in that basically says that everything in this section is subject to sunset if the council adopts an ordinance and the corporation council certifies that the function required by the charter is met by the ordinance. And if that's the case, these sections will sunset out. That was the intent of what I had done 2 years ago. If I can fix it between now and the time it comes back from the council, my hope would be that we will fix it, and you'll see this section. They're going to be recommending that you take the section out. But for the time being, if we could simply approve it, then we can deal with it at that point. But I will have in other sections similar to this, I will put the sunset language in so that someday somebody might actually take it out short of a charter revision. I think it's again, what a lot of people don't realize is that before Title VII was put into place, the municipal powers were put in place, you had to be very specific, but now the powers are so broad, you've got these powers. So I ask that you simply approve this language, and I will do my best to extricate it before it comes back here.
This is, so let's make sure I have the section right.
It's 4- or 8-2 D.
8-2 or 8-4?
Hold on. 8-4
Yep.
D1, the transition language is coming out, and D4.
8-4 D1. 8-4D.
D1 and D4.
Okay.
I don't think
Uh,
I'm seeing that on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's,
What
no,
is on
that's,
the screen?
that's 4, that what we're seeing on
Here,
the
here,
screen is the
I'll show you
bottom.
I'll show you the first one. The first one is simply the transition language.
Yeah.
Here, I'll take the color off it so you can actually read
I
it.
got you. Okay, yeah.
There. This
There
is
you
the
go.
language, was the transition language that was in the charter. That's coming out.
And we're taking that out.
We're taking that out. I actually moved it over into this section itself, but my hope is that we'll address it as we go through this process. All right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do a motion for 8-4D1 and 8-4D4.
I'll move it.
You, Ed, all in favor?
Aye.
Any?
I believe that it's 8, oh no, that's 8-4B, never mind.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
All right, the next section is in the tax collector section. And the tax collector, we got rid of a lot of language in the section, but the tax collector thought that adding 1 and 2 improvement liens and sidewalk improvements really fortified those authorities for that office and actually did what they should do. And I thought that it's one of those sections where you actually have a historical provision that actually makes sense. So I would urge you to support the addition of these 2 items, which are coming from section 14-5.
Is there a definition in there about what sidewalks are? Because there's
not
things
the
in this
word.
city that are, you might call a sidewalk, but they're designated a trail.
That's in ordinance, isn't it?
Not sure.
Kind of think it is, because
And I think it needs to be really clear if you're gonna slap a lien on somebody's property for not maintaining something that's in front of their house, calling it a sidewalk when it may not be a sidewalk.
does it,
No, but this is for a lien where you convert whatever their trail is into a sidewalk and they're paying you for the work you do on it. So there will be a considerable discussion as to whether somebody wants to keep their trail or have a sidewalk. This comes to the point where there's an improvement that was made by the city.
So you're saying that if I have a trail and the city wants to convert that to a sidewalk, and I say, no, leave it the way it is, I could get a lien because I don't agree with the city.
They put a sidewalk in, you'll probably get a lien. I would imagine that if you have a compelling argument, you can make an argument that
I
it's
would
not-
get a lien in order, that would affect me helping pay for the sidewalk.
get a lien if they put the sidewalk in, even if you didn't like the
But
sidewalk.
isn't there an
Yes.
ordinance that says that for 6 feet or whatever it is from the road to into your property, that is technically city property anyway? Isn't
I
that
think Ed, it actually goes to the middle of the road. It's almost 10 feet,
from the middle of the road to
your
where?
property
Because-
line.
Property, yeah, it's always a property line. The ordinance, if I remember, I read correctly in the state ordinance too, that if you have a sidewalk, you're responsible for the care of the sidewalk. Homeowner, I never agreed with it. It's public property.
Well, and
I can't insure it because I don't own it, you know,
it's just a way to-
that's state statute too. Now, Norwalk incorporated back in sometime in the 70s, footpaths. And footpaths are exempt from the sidewalk ordinance.
which is what East Rocks Road has.
Now we're gonna make homeowners responsible for footpaths.
But if you're gonna, at some point you want to have sidewalks, right?
Well, ideally, that would be good because, I mean, the footpaths really, they've gone to hell in a handbasket.
Right.
Some
So if
people
you-
are walking in the street.
So if we agree that we need sidewalks and there's an ordinance of some sort that says that 6 feet from where, that there's a portion of your property that the city, it's really the city has an easement or or whatever control over, or really as a practical matter belongs to the city, then if you don't want a sidewalk, then you're sort of getting in the way of you're getting in the way of this notion that we're all trying to get sidewalks, basically, right?
It's happened before.
Yeah, it has happened before.
I had a street where they, one side of the street doesn't want the sidewalk, but the slip line across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walter Avenue was a very famous one we dealt with at one point.
Right, so what is this ordinance, so what does this charter thing then provide? It says that, what are we voting on in connection with this again?
Well, it's public improvement liens and the duration of the public improvement lien. And it continues for a certain period of time. You could bring it to a judge, a court.
We were just
Orders.
voting on.
Yeah, but Stephen, if the city puts a lien on you because of that sidewalk and you want to sell your house, you're not gonna get a clear title.
Right, but they can declare eminent domain or whatever, they can do all kind, the city can
They
do all
could
kinds of-
declare eminent domain, yeah, that'd be beautiful, then they pay for it.
Well, you're gonna have to pay them back. You'll get clear title. If you want to sell your house and there's a lien, you pay the lien.
Yeah, right, that's true. It comes out of the-
Depending on how much the lien is.
If I have a mortgage on my house, I've got to get rid of the mortgage.
Well, maybe you can afford the lien, maybe you can't. I just don't want to see anybody get slapped with anything paying for the improvements that should be paid for. Either if they're asked and they want to voluntarily do it, but not be forced to do it.
All right. Well, if you vote this down, it stays in the back of the document. It's the law currently. We could, I suppose we could vote it out of the charter completely. And so they'll be stuck with whatever state law they have to deal with. I think they thought this was an improvement on the state law, is my assumption.
Well, I know in their, what do you call it, Ed and Doug, on your grand plan or whatever the city lays out, and there's certain designated areas for different types of improvement, like it's been going on here in the Cranberry area, a bunch of different streets. So, it's up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I don't know. I mean, if we're just moving it from one part of the charter to the other, that's really all we're doing at this point. Maybe the discussion as to whether or not it should be eliminated can be deferred, but.
Wasn't the action item for this section was just,
To
To
move it,
Move it.
move it.
to
If
move
you
it.
have questions about it, you want to have the tax collector come in, or
Yeah.
the CFO come back before and talk about it.
well,
They
do
can come
we
to the
want to
next
put this
meeting.
one off then with the other things?
All right, hold.
We'll hold the tax.
Guys, we're running out of time, but we'll get the CFO will come to the next meeting because I need him for the ordinance definition anyhow.
Can you put an ask in the water department too? That's ever been a case of this? I didn't figure out how you do that.
Well, I'm sure there've been liens. I
No,
can't
but
imagine
you're
a city of
saying
this
an
size.
individual can put a lien on the city if. Because they put they took a parcel of property, but the eminent domain is how you take property, and somebody doesn't want to sell it. I'm just trying to figure out,
Well, if they put eminent domain.
Is
on
there a
yours,
utilized?
Is there a problem?
yeah, are we fixing something that shouldn't even be there?
We're
Because
not
it never
fixing
happened.
anything. It's in the charter. We're not fixing anything. We're leaving it the way it is.
No,
No, I
The
know
issue
what I
for
mean
you-
by fixing it, if we go back, and always got a case law, this ever happening or a scenario.
okay, I'm sorry, bringing this up. I just asked, should there be a definition of what a sidewalk in the city of Norwalk is? Because there is a mixture of sidewalks and walking paths.
Can we check, can we check the ordinances before the next meeting for that?
Okay.
I feel like it's addressed there because I had to look into this for somebody in our district.
So.
In ordinance.
I mean, I think what Steve is seeking to do is to make section 14 go away by putting the pieces of it where they belong. And that's what this proposal is. Am I getting that right, Steve?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, John. And in this case, the tax collector knocked out a lot of stuff from 14, unlike the other sections. So I wasn't hypercritical or looking at it for substance, but
Well, then,
Right.
narrowed
yeah.
it down to these two issues and thought these were important. I will talk to the CFO and see if either he or the tax collector will be at the next meeting. I'll look at the issue of sidewalk definitions and we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's all I would ask, Stephen, is if we could put it
No, I got
saying,
it.
a sidewalk is defined as, and then there's the definition.
Got it.
Okay,
All right, the next one is one of my least favorite, conversions. I'll tell you about it in a second.
So
This
should
one
we
is-
vote on moving it to where it's being moved to, not necessarily the,
yeah, we could vote to we could vote to move it, right?
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
I don't know that we have, well, I don't know, I guess if we have time, I don't know that we want to open up the sidewalk thing with the clock approaching midnight, but why don't we vote to move it at least into the proper place where it is?
correct?
Okay,
I
so
thought
that's
we
gonna
made a
be,
motion to, I thought we made a motion to do that.
we had made a discussion to table the whole thing until we figured that out, but why don't we move a vote on at least getting it in the proper place and then, right, so it's 8-4.
So moved.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have the right
Yes.
citations. 8-4. D. 8-4E. Okay, John has made a motion to accept 8-4E as presented. All in favor?
You're talking about a motion to move it.
I'm sorry, a motion to approve
Moving.
the moving
Yeah.
moving that language to 8-5E.
Yeah, as a location in the chart. Sure.
Correct. So we're not discussing any of the finer nuances of sidewalks or whatever. We're just approving that we're moving it to the proper place and cleaning that up. So this is 8-5E, as Steve has laid it
I
out.
believe 8-4E.
I know it sounds funny, but it's a serious issue in some areas.
No, you're not wrong, Carl. It might be 8-4. It's 8-4 finance functions. Right, so it's not, it's 8-4. 8-4E. John has made that, made the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Okay,
All right, the next change is another one of the ones that I'm not happy about. This is in Division of Operations and Public Works. It's 8-7. Here it is, 8-7B2. And it's A through here we go, M. And then it continues in subsection 3, A through C. And this is a section I definitely want to spend time with the council on because I really am not sure why it's here. But the only thing I wanted you to do is approve the move, and also, since I didn't put the proviso in, authorize me to put the proviso in. If this survives, if the council doesn't want to address it, I want to have the sunset language in here for this section, which is my strongest suggestion that a lot of this stuff needs to come out. I cannot make that decision. I can say, I believe that this should come out, but if there's something unique that they've used these sections for, I just don't have the history and I can't make that judgment call. I think most of this is not necessary. But I will try to have a sit down with the operations people. If I can do it between now and our next meeting, I will do it. If not, I'll do it while it's at the council. So if we could simply move this into the section with me adding the proviso language, which is the sunset language, I'd appreciate it.
and it's 8-7B2.
B and 3.
B2, right,
And
A
3.
through M, and then B3.
Yep.
Okay, so it's 8-7B2, A through M, and 8-7B3.
I'll make a motion to make that move.
Okay, All in
Need to add the
favor?
we need to add the proviso language too, right?
Yeah, add the proviso language, please.
We need to add that.
Authorize me to add the proviso language as part of the motion.
Yes. Who made the motion? Carl?
I did.
Carl, you amended to, that we authorize Steve to add the proviso language.
And I amended to giving Steve the keys to the liquor cabinet.
Okay. All in favor?
Wow.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay,
I knew I liked Commissioner Dickens from the first moment I met him. As long as there's some Campari in there, that's all. And
You got
Johnny
it.
Walker Black. All right, there
You
you
got
go.
it, brother. You got
All
it.
right, thank you. So now we come to the budget. Where we have had considerable discussion, but remember at the last meeting, so I got it up on the screen. We agreed we were going to take this redundant language. Remember, we still have to come up with the definition of operating budget.
Yeah.
But we took all the heavy language out from 10-1A and just simply said the budget's comprised of the operating budget, capital budget, and capital improvement plan, and we delete that other language. That's the first change. Should we just take the budget as a whole, Mr. Chair?
I would prefer to just do Article 10 all as one vote.
Okay, so that's the first Article 10 issue. The second one is in C4. And C4, the most recent stuff we added there, we've approved a lot of this language, but this is the most recent stuff we're adding. We added the superintendent of schools and the CFO of the school system to that initial joint public hearing. So that's new language for that. That's right there in 4 at the bottom of the page.
Got it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then next is the CFO asked us, I think, to add this language here in D, that the department heads of the responsible people for the budget entities have to provide estimates of the cost of capital budget items pending or which should, in their judgment, be undertaken. So you're asking them to make a judgment call on what should be in the capital budget. And that was language that was recommended by the CFO. I'm working with 2 documents here. Let's go over E a little bit here. In E, we basically established that in E, the main paragraph E, we originally had December 15th as the date. The schools have suggested that they could do it on December 31st, so we have two submission dates, one for all the other departments and the other for the public schools. Other changes, minor change in,
I don't know the background about that. Why the 31st and not the 15th to everybody else? I don't.
because they
Background why that is?
I don't want to be cynical. They have to go through their own process, their own deliberative process. And for whatever reasons, they need the extra 2 weeks. And so we are essentially codifying them. So
Thank you for the use of that word. I appreciate that. I don't know.
what's that?
It's not why, because that's, to me, it's like, you got the 15th. Everybody else.
Yeah, no, we're
What makes
accommodating.
you
but-
so special?
Yeah, so they're gonna work through,
Yeah.
they're gonna work through the Christmas holidays to get this done for us. It is what it is. I've seen it in other communities, boards of education want to be treated with love.
But
And
Stephen, wasn't this a bone of contention the last time about the dates and the board adamantly opposed it being moved up, but moved back because they couldn't get it done in time?
claim that they had so many processes we had to go through, their subcommittees, their committees.
Yep.
And therefore they needed the extra time. And I think that the CFO and the administration agreed that it made sense, and there's
Don't
plenty to
belabor it.
do.
You gave me the reason. but don't belabor
Yeah,
it.
there's plenty to do. So the 2 weeks is not going to kill the budget process.
So they're okay with these dates?
Late
Yeah.
fee, there's no penalty.
Okay.
It came from the CFO, so I'm assuming that they're okay. If,
So, you know what, I am gonna belabor this a second though. So if, on the city side, they're supposed to submit their budget on operating, correct?
Correct,
How do you do that without the Board of Ed setting theirs?
correct.
no,
What am I missing?
This is, no, what you're
That's
missing is,
sensible.
this is the department head sending their budget requests
Well,
estimates
okay, but.
to the finance director. And
I'll let it go.
yeah,
No, it's okay, Doug. You're,
Long drive today.
you're asking.
Doug,
you're asking-
Doug, I'm not arguing. I'm trying to be polite, not to you. I'm trying to be polite. It's a request, and boards of ed want to be treated specially. That's all I'm going to say.
And that's a perfect
so I-
statement, Stephen.
And I'm not disagreeing with the vice chair. I don't want
No.
him to think that
That's
I'm disagreeing. Yeah,
We could make it December 30th and then like roll it back one day every 10 years.
They work you like they're.
Okay,
yeah, they're going to give it to
Thank you.
the.
No, I'm sorry, I don't want
expect-
that thing.
They expect the finance director to be available on New Year's Eve to get the data. So whatever. It is what it is. We'll see what the council does with it. Okay.
it is a, if we try to move it around, it is a hill they'll die on.
Yeah, it's not, yes, there's some things I have fought with boards of ed throughout the state of Connecticut. I don't mind doing it. I didn't think this was one that if they wanted an extra month or something like that, I said, come on, give me a break. But that's not what they're looking for. The only other change in this section is in the last sentence. We put quotes around, we split up operating budget and capital budget estimates, made it two different terms with quotes around the terms, basically. In the annual budget, let's see here.
Can I
Um,
ask for a word in there? Tell me
Yep.
why it would be there. Go back to that. Sorry. Where does it go? It'll be available upon these estimates shall be public records and shall be open for inspection at all reasonable times. Can we insert the word posted? In this day and age, something can certainly go on the website and be available all day long. I worry about the word reasonable time. Well, that's only Monday through Friday when City Hall from 8:30 to 4:30.
well, remember, we have a definition of public notice, and so
I would just available at all times and posted on the city's website.
What do we, where? I'm
public
sorry.
notice
It's
is a posting, Doug.
Paragraph right before 10-2.
Yeah, it's this right here, this language. By using the term public notice, it's posted. It requires a posting, so it would
Okay,
be,
all right, well, I was interpreting that as being somebody put it up and it's posted, downstairs somewhere. And you gotta show up at City Hall when it's open.
It's in a
That's
file
all.
folder in someone's desk.
Okay,
yeah, no, this is,
that's
a
explained.
public notice is defined term and it requires a posting. And it could require newspaper publication if they have an ordinance that says so. Public notice is a pretty good, robust definition. All right, let's go back. So now we're into 10-3, which is the operating budget. Let's see if there are any changes since last time. No changes since last time. We do have language change in 10-5, which is reviewed by the Common Council. And this is the language. Yeah, this is language that I think you actually approved it, frankly. This just shows you that you did. You approved it on April 29th. read the last sentence. In the event the Common Council fails to adopt a resolution as required, the limits set forth in the proposed mayor's operating budget shall be deemed to have been adopted by the council. I believe that's what you wanted to do.
And this is section we're doing a term, I know we've already discussed that the term of office was in this section too.
In 10.5A.
Yeah. I know we discussed the term of office.
We-
were investing in that.
Yeah, I don't think it was in that part though. That was it in 10.7.
Term of office for what?
Remember the discussion about the overlap between the old BET and the new BET?
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
needs to be
that's in the front of,
approved?
that's up front in the charter. Yeah.
With the indulgence after we finish going through everything.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
I want to present a certain case, because Steve and I started talking about the police commission part.
Okay. All right, well, let's move.
So are we
can
okay
do-
with that
should we
language? I mean,
finish
that,
10?
that doesn't need
Yeah,
a
yeah,
vote.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I just want to, sorry.
Sorry,
Are
Steve.
we all, we're all, oh, you're okay with that language?
Yes,
Because I think it was Ed Camacho's language, if I'm not mistaken. Just
I
wanna
think
make
it
sure.
was.
Let's see, we're getting near the end here, guys. I don't think a lot of other big changes. Let me see. 10-11. And look, you know, what, can I just say one thing before we go here? Before we vote on the final document, you will have a red line in front of you to show you everything that's been redlined. And so I ask you to look at that carefully to make sure that you're comfortable with everything we've done. And I'll try to make sure, what we'll do is when we prepare the document for public hearing, I'll try to prepare a red line for the public. Hopefully it won't be too much of a mess. I don't think it will be. And you guys should really look at it carefully because, just to make sure that I did not slough anything over as we've been going through this section as we get to the end of this process. So 10-11 is a minor change. I don't know why I put it as an action item, but I did. Estimates is not a capitalized term, and I made it lowercase. And I think there was an unnecessary word in B. The word "the" doesn't belong there. I don't think that needs a vote, Mr. Chair. I don't know. Well, we're gonna vote on the whole section, so
We're gonna vote on the whole section.
yeah, that's right, I forgot. Okay.
Yep.
One second, my cursor is not, here we go. It's back. CFO report. I think there's changes in 10-13. Uh, 10-13, the change that we made that we talked about that came from the CFO is that the planning commission, the planning and zoning board is not voting on the plan. They're only voting on the capital budget. To have them go through the 10-year plan would just take up an awful lot of time. And I don't think they have time to do it. And there's really no need to make a determination that the overall 10-year plan, other than the first year, is in compliance with the plan of conservation and development. So I think that was the reason for limiting their review to the budget, as you know, which is the first year of the plan. And those are the changes that you see in here. And then review by the mayor, 10-14. Are there any changes in there? No, I don't think there's any changes in that section. Nope. Just some structural change in sentence here. Then 10-15. All right, 10-15. The change I think you approved at the last meeting in yellow. The council is not required to consider any recommendations of the Board of Estimate if not in writing. And I think everybody decided that that was a problem that did not exist. And so that language you can see in the yellow is gone. Um,
It's punitive.
no other changes in that section, except, no other changes in that section. Although I think we did, yes, in D, there's a kind of a balancing act section. This is the section where they can transfer to the operating budget, but it's subject to reinstatement by the council as set forth in 10-16A. Actually, it should be below.
Say below.
Yeah, it should say below. Let me just fix that where it needs to be fixed. Hold on. Below. And then you'll see below that this is the parallel language. Reinstate. This is the parallel language to that language. So you get it in both sides where they can do it. It's subject to the reinstatement. If they reinstate, it's the transfer under 15-15.d above. So that's the parallelism that is in there. Let's see, termination or abandonment. Okay, in this section B, and this is of 10-17B. This was the language that was recommended by the CFO, so that any capital item shall lapse, if not terminated within 4 years of authorization of the council. In honor before November 1st of each year, the CFO shall submit to the council a report that identifies the status of projects that are scheduled to lapse within the following 12 months. The council does have the discretion to continue the authorization for a project or projects by a majority vote of the council. Right now, it's a different process, but this is the new language that was recommended by the CFO that sets up really a schedule for the lapsing of these projects. And that's it on the budget. And there's only one minor, well, no, I don't know if it's a minor item, but only one other item at the back of the document. So if you want to vote on the budget section, be my guest.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. And we go ahead and vote on this section that deals with the budget items and for the new.
On all proposed changes in Article 10. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
The last item, thank you, members. The last item I have on my list tonight is in Article 11. And this is the language. There you go. This is the language that. Here it is. The periodic review section. Where
or
we had recommended moving it from every 5 years to every 10 years.
okay,
That's it.
John?
So, yeah, the 5-year requirement was put in place 2 years ago by the last Charter Revision Commission. And I'm wondering, clearly they had options. And Steve, I guess you were advising that commission as well, right?
I was,
so-
yes.
I'm sorry?
I did,
Was.
yes. I was and I did. Thank
Okay,
you.
so, and they chose 5 years. I'm wondering, what was the rationale for 5 years? And what is the reason for changing that now? So two
I'll let the
questions.
three, I'll let the, well, there's only two of the three members who were on the last commission there tonight. The best practice from my point of view is 10 years. This is a constitution. And if you start looking at your constitution every 5 years, it kind of undermines the notion that it is a foundational document for your community. They chose 5 years, I think, and I don't want to speak for them, but I think that there was a feeling that since they had been so unsuccessful in terms of dealing with the charter, that they needed to look at it periodically, and they went for a shorter period of time.
That's what I recall, which was that we
That's
hadn't,
exactly right.
we
Yeah.
spent almost the entire time, you know, going through it with a fine tooth comb and making a lot of relatively minor but cumulatively major revisions, but we left some big things on the table. And the idea was that, you know, we would revisit that within 5 years. I think, you know, as we had discussed at the last two meetings, you know, the plan is to get it on the agenda for the next time, for the next meeting, but the 4-year term for mayor was certainly one of the considerations. But I think after what we've done this time, 10 years is a perfectly reasonable amount of time to wait in between mandatory revisions, with the understanding that if there's something absolutely urgent that has to be changed in the interim, that the council's able to convene a commission to do that.
So I would give a counter argument, and that is that charter revision is a right now quite rare opportunity for the city and its citizens and residents to look at the rules of the game and to consider whether or not those are adequate or whether or not they need change. You know, change can be, you know, minor tweaking or can be more significant than that. And obviously the council has the option to call a charter commission whenever they want to. But, you know, it seems to me that elected officials find it quite often easiest to do nothing. And I think giving the citizens a chance to review the rules and the requirement, you know, the state requires holding public hearings both at the beginning and at the end, and it forces the city to consider whether or not things are good enough. And allowing that to happen, you know, requiring it only every 10 years, in my view, is probably not enough. I know the town of Ellington has a 5-year charter revision requirement. Ridgefield has a 4-year charter revision requirement. I don't think there's a right number, but I know that 10 years is required by the state, I believe. Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And
The state doesn't have a requirement.
oh, is that right? Okay, I had heard otherwise, but in any case, 10 years is a long stretch. We are in a political and technological environment where things change rapidly. Demographics change rapidly, and
But that's not the point of the charter, John. And there's a cost associated with it, right? So having a charter revision commission is not just an exercise in civic engagement where we want, right? We're not getting engagement. That's the reality. We didn't last time. And there is a very real 6-figure cost to the people who live in Norwalk to do this. So why do this every 5 years just to try to engage people when they're not engaged anyway? And you're not tinkering with your constitution every couple of years just to have people look it over and.
no, it's not a question of tinkering. It's giving the people a chance. Furthermore, I think
don't they
when you
have
look
that
at,
in
wait, let me finish.
elected
Let me finish. If you're concerned about lack of public engagement, then you really have to look at the you know, best practices that are recommended for a charter revision commission, where there is very, very significant outreach and a meaningful effort to engage the public, which so far this commission, you know, I'm sorry, we've been busy with a lot of things,
Yeah.
but One of them is not seeking to engage the public and public outreach. That has been a bare minimum. Of course, you can't force people, but the vast majority of people that live in the town don't know what the charter is and don't know what's going on and are uninformed.
I don't want to belabor the point, John. You've made your point. I'm in favor of the 10 years, so we will.
Yeah, I think you want some predictability. And if you're gonna keep changing the rules every 5 years, I don't know how you plan on that.
Don't say keep changing the rules every 5 years.
Let me finish now.
Okay, sure.
I mean, what you seem to really evince is a fundamental distrust in our representative democracy. You seem to think that the Common Council won't do anything for 10 years. If an issue comes up of some importance, when they can or would otherwise have the option of convening a commission when the issue becomes an issue. So that's one philosophical perspective on self-governance. But I think that you want predictability in government as well. And I think that requiring a city or a town to convene every 10 years provides both predictability and public engagement on a regular basis. And if a common council should decide, or the people of the city should decide who elects a common council every 2 years, should decide that something requires addressing more urgently, that option is always available. And so for those reasons, I think that the 10-year provision is appropriate, and I think it makes sense.
So I would just respond by saying that convening a charter revision commission doesn't mean there will be any changes. All it does is it allows for the chance, it allows people to voice their opinions and say what changes they need and what they want. An example is when we've had our own public hearings, there have been members of the public who have come and said that there's a desire for better representation, that they don't feel as if, let's say, the elected body, the Common Council, adequately represents the electorate. And I've expressed that concern. And of course, that's exactly the kind of stability that I'm sure the incumbents are satisfied with. But without putting in some type of minority party representation rule, requirement, or giving some other way to expand the democracy features of the town charter, then keeping it as it is, in my view, anti-democratic and really disrespectful of the voters.
Well, we're going to vote on it, okay? We're going to vote on, do we have a motion to accept the change to 11.4, periodic review of the charter and the amendment of the charter, to include 10 years, a mandatory 10-year revisiting of the charter, no later than September 2035, and then 10 years thereafter. Do we have a motion?
In place of 5 years.
In place of 5 years, 10 years in place of 5 years at 11.4.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 11.4, that we replace the 5-year call for a charter with 10 years.
All in favor of that? One, two.
Aye.
So we'll do a roll, okay? In favor. Here are Doug and Tyler. Online, Carl,
I'm in favor.
you're in favor. Tanya
I'm in favor.
is in favor. Ed,
Yes, I'm in favor.
okay. And then did I miss anybody online?
Jim.
Jim
Yes, in favor.
is in favor. Okay, do we have any opposed? Joe and John, and then that will 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's everybody. Okay. Anything else, Steve? I think that was probably the last thing at the back.
No,
Saying
that is, but if I may, I just didn't want to participate in your debate, but I do want to make a comment on, I'm trying to get, this off the screen at this point, but,
Yeah. Close
it's
that
out.
down.
Yeah, here it is. There we go. Is it off?
No,
Still screen share.
Stop share. There we
There we
go.
go.
There
we
you
go.
go.
All right. So, if I may, Mr. Chair, and then you can discuss business moving forward. I represent a lot of charter commissions and, been doing it for a lot of years. And what I have noticed, I'm very sympathetic to John Levin's arguments about public engagement. There was a time where a lot of my commissions held meetings throughout the community. We had the pandemic that got in the way of that, which really, in some ways, has changed the civic culture. And I agree with John that, going forward, we need to find new ways to engage the public as much as we can. In some ways, candidly, the issue of hybrid meetings should be a boon for public participation when you think about it. And in some cases it has been, other cases it has not. And so just in general, it's one of the real dilemmas we face. But here's the story I wanted to tell you. So I'm doing Salem, Connecticut. Salem is a town of 5,000 people, and they spent a lot of time on outreach. We would have the same group of people, similar to Norwalk, and the Democratic town chairman, the Republican town chairman, person who ran for first selectman, person, whatever it may be. The same group of people would come. One of the things our commission decided to do, and I was not really strongly in favor of it, they decided they were going to do a survey. And they sent the survey out. They're very diligent, coming up with 5 or 7 questions to survey the public. They sent it out at considerable cost by mail. They made it available online. It was available in the library. And in a small town, the library is a place where people go, and town hall, etc. And as diligent as they were, they only ended up with about 200 and some responses to the survey. And so this whole notion of trying to motivate the public is one that everybody needs to dig in and try to find the answers to, because that commission, I will tell you, went beyond the call and went beyond the pale. It's hard to go door to door in Salem. It's the woods, but they use the mails and they use email and they tried every which way. Now, here's the other consoling point. I talked to Tyler about this earlier this evening. They had their public hearing last week, and I figured the same old characters were going to come out, and of course, the 3 of them were there, but there were 17 other people who showed up. There were 20 people plus 2 or 3 members of the Board of Selectmen who decided to do kind of closing statements after the public was done. And several of the members of the public, they had 3-minute rules. Several of the members spoke 2 or 3 times. I'm not counting that in my 20. So that would be, 20 plus times 2 times 3 times 4. So, 20, the equivalent of 25 or 26 speakers. It was a magnificent public hearing, wide variety of views, not general agreement on between the parties, very civil, very, it was delightful. It was the best public hearing that I had attended in a long time. And I was just pleased that there were about 40 people in the room and only 20 spoke. So about half the room was interested in watching and seeing what was going on.
That's a fantastic turnout.
Yeah. And so those are good stories, and it can happen. And so I'm sympathetic to John's point. I did not want to participate. I didn't want to say this during the debate on the subject. I wanted to bring it up, but it's something I've observed for a long time. And I'm hoping at some point in this post-pandemic environment that we find ways to reach out so that people come to these meetings. I remember when we did it in Hartford, it was very frustrating. We'd go to community centers and no one would show up. We went around to schools and community centers. This is pre-pandemic. No one even knew what the pandemic was. And it was still difficult. It's a very difficult game to reach out and to engage in outreach and get significant public involvement unless there's something really, really controversial in your document. And so I don't know how you increase public participation. It's been a life's goal of mine, and I still have a lot of life left. So I hope I'm here in 10 years when you do another charter revision. But I just want to let you know that it's one of the dilemmas that is faced by everybody. It's not just Norwalk. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
When I did Bridgeport's 5-year plan, the community development plan, we hired a consultant for like $40,000 who really his sole purpose was to put together public hearings. And in the biggest city in the state, we got 6 people that came out after an advertising campaign and going to churches and hiring a translator and whatever. So it's been a career-long challenge for me as well, but we'll figure it out one of these days, Steve. The other items, covered a lot of good stuff tonight. I wanted to look at the 2 dates, right? So we have a meeting next week on the 15th. We had to move some stuff around, but I believe it's Thursday, the 15th. And then we need to set our public hearing date, which I thought we were going to try to do the Tuesday of the week after.
The 20th?
Which would be the 20th. I have it on my calendar kind of blocked off anyway, but unless there are any reasons not to, or if they don't have enough for a quorum, I think we were going to try to go for Tuesday, the 20th as our public hearing date. So if we can agree on that, we can put the word out as soon as possible.
So with our meeting, so guys, what that means is our meeting on the 15th, we will vote on any other outstanding issues.
Yes.
And that will be the document that goes to public hearing.
That would be the document. So any conflicts for the 15th and 20th? I know some people responded. I apologize. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I will not be able to attend, Mr. Chairman.
The 15th or both?
15th, just the 15th.
15th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim's out.
I won't be able to do anything on the 20th.
Carl can't do the 20th.
15th, I'll be late.
15th. Doug late. Okay. And I thought I'll double check
won't
Rick's
be-
schedule.
I won't be here. I won't be able to make the 15th, but I'll be available on the 20th.
Got you. Thank you, Tony.
As long as we have a quorum. And the final action will be on the 27th,
Yep.
That's good.
because we have to get it in by the 30th.
Yep.
I'd like to get it in on the 29th if we can. So for that meeting, I'll prepare a transmittal letter for you, Tyler, for the last meeting.
And I will work on the update to the preamble there and send that around to everybody for comment.
Thank you.
And so what are the issues for the next meeting? We have a few left over here. You're going to do 4-year term.
A few left over. We were going to address 4-year mayoral term. And was there anything else that had been kind of tabled indefinitely that we need to, it's our last chance to address on the 15th?
What are the?
Library board.
The what?
Library
Library,
board.
yeah, that's on the list of things from today.
Yeah.
I thought we.
Minority represent.
I didn't remember if that had failed or if that had been.
Well,
retabled.
I
proposed one version of.
That failed. Yeah, and I thought you proposed the most reasonable version of that stuff.
I thought it did too. I don't think we voted on it. That was the at-large seats.
Well, we can add that, the at-large
Yes.
minority NPR,
At large?
at-large NPR for the 15th.
Okay.
And if you would like to, yeah, please, before we adjourn, Steve, Doug had just wanted to, I think, continue discussion about
In the last charter revision, dates were moved as to when officials took office. The problem, what I'm seeing and as going through things, that the terms of other committees in that don't match up or leaves large gaps. And I'll bring up previously, election day on Tuesday, the following Tuesday, so the council meets, that was in existence. Their term ended at midnight on Monday night the following week. The new council basically took control of the council, got sworn in on the third Tuesday. So you had election. They finish up their term basically the Monday before the third Tuesday of the month. And the new electors came in, and the terms of most commissions, as in the Board of Investment Taxation, the Police Commission, the Fire Commission, all ran concurrent with those dates. It seems, I'm not getting a clear, and I'm probably not looking at enough sections of what happens when, but if they take office the first business day after January 1st. Am I correct there? That is the way it's.
First business day of January, yeah.
So is the oath, first question I'm gonna ask, is the oath of office necessary for them to take their seats?
Not legally, unless the charter, look and see if the charter has an oath.
Okay, so they'll not require to take the oath of office to be, they are automatically, I'm just trying to get clarification. Now they say they don't meet until the second Tuesday of the month. So this coming year, the new council will take office January 2nd and then not meet until the 13th.
Unless they have to.
This
Unless
happens
otherwise.
to be the date of the second Tuesday of the month. All right. The Police Commission and Fire Commission run concurrent with the mayor's term, is that correct? Did you have, I didn't see it change one way or the other now, but that's the way it used to be.
I
believe
think they
that's
had a fixed
correct.
number of years.
Yeah, we approved the language. They serve, remember I fixed
Yeah.
the word coterminously? They serve coterminously with the mayor.
Okay,
But those people who are on the Board of Police Commissioners serve until the new mayor appoints the new members and until they're approved. That's also in the charter. So you don't have a situation where there's no Board of Police Commissioners. You have a situation where the current mayor has to work with the last Board of Police Commissioners until they move on it. And my recommendation is that should be one of the first thing the new mayor does, is make that recommendation and have the council deal with it as soon as possible so that they could be approved as soon as possible. And there's nothing to stop a new mayor from, well, the question is, can the mayor submit nominations before he actually holds office?
He's not mayor.
no, the
so
mayor,
we
in
can't nominate.
previous life, the mayor made a straight up appointment by himself. He just had to announce it.
No, but that's different.
It went on the agenda, but just had to announce it. Now
Yeah.
that you change it to council approval, which changed
Yeah,
a bunch of
so the
timelines.
mayor should do it first thing and get it approved as soon as possible.
And I go back to the discussion about the Board of Investment Taxation. Should follow suit with that the first meeting, their term ends. Not sometime in February, but the term ends. When the mayor appoints somebody, and the way you rewrite how the council meet the first meeting, the old council could only do organization business, and the mayor had a section appointments. And any straight up appointment, usually the fire commissioner or the police commission was on there. Now we need to put appointments up with council approval, but the way you reworded it, it's no longer just a requirement of doing their organizational meeting. It just says that council shall do business. And appointments are listed there, so the mayor can theoretically, on that second Tuesday of the month, put all his appointments up. I'm just trying to say that to me, it makes, for anybody that's gonna be mayor, you want to get your appointments in, no matter who it is. Sooner versus later. When you're taking your term of office, I just think that some cleanup should happen before we put all this out there, that however their terms of office or whatever, they're allowed to be appointed. At least by the first meeting of the council, which is the second Tuesday of January. That's my 2 cents.
Well, they can make their appointments that day. What stops them? The term of office commences on February 1st.
January.
So,
January 1st.
no.
ETs.
The
Well, I know,
BET
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, the BT, okay.
I know, and I'm saying, why can't you make it? Make it
Because the first
make it
meeting
the
will be a
second
different
Tuesday of the
time of the
month. I
year.
mean, I don't,
What is
you know, Or the-
It's a fixed, or I'm not gonna get in a debate. I mean, I thought this was resolved. It's a fixed term. What's the problem with 2 weeks? If the mayor
not 2
puts the
weeks,
appointment.
a month.
It's
The
not a
council
month.
meets the
There
second
are,
and
there's
fourth
members of
Tuesday.
the body. They're members.
I know,
And-
but why wouldn't you have any mayoral appointment? All right? Especially that magnitude and that run concurrently with police commissioners or anybody else. The mayor gets to appoint somebody his first meeting in January. Why blow them off for another month?
The charter specifically says under 4-3B that at the first meeting, one of the purposes of the first meeting is to confirm appointments. And so if the mayor makes appointments on this first day or her first day in office, gets them over to the council and says, I want the BET people appointed for a term that commences on February 1st, what is the problem?
Second, the problem is it should start the day they're appointed.
And they appointed for what term? They're not coterminous with the mayor. They're appointed to a term of
Yeah,
office.
yeah,
Remember,
they are, but
only
they're
half of the
4-year,
body.
they're
the mayor
4-year
still
term.
gets half of the BET that's not his BET.
It is cycled, it was cycled with the mayor, always was cycled with the mayor, except they're not all up at once. They're staggered. That's the difference. So it's a radical change when you think about what you did. You moved it from the first day the mayor's in there, he could go appoint at least before the council, by the second meeting, a BET member. Because that's how the term went, that the term was concurrent with the mayor's term, whose terms came up at that particular time. Then the following year, whatever.
I'm not.
Just
First
saying,
day-
I'm
but the
just
first
trying to
day
say.
Not my
it
job
shouldn't-
to debate.
But the first day that the mayor was mayor in the past, which was right, I guess, one day after the election? Is that when it was?
Mhm.
No,
When was the mayor, mayor in the past?
the mayor
Very next
is,
day.
no,
It was
No.
like
A
a
week-
week or
a
two.
week
It was very
later.
short, which is why we
Okay,
bumped
so
it out
a
to
week-
Tuesday
all
to
right.
give
It was
a
a week or-
transition.
A
All
week
right,
or
so a
two
week later, so in the past, let's say the mayor was mayor a
Weeks.
week later, a week after the election, in the past,
2 weeks.
was there an issue with there being commissioners or whatever not being appointed or being appointed, or like, was that ever an issue in the past?
No, because the commissioners that were up ran concurrent with the mayors. The new
I know,
mayor
but
came
the
up.
point is that
Well, they weren't
but
concurrent.
they still served as long until such time as the mayor and the common council or whoever appointed the new people, they still continued to serve until there was a new appointment. No.
I would have to verify. I couldn't tell you, I wouldn't, I can't verify that one way or the other, what I sound like somebody else. But
as a
I would
practical-
find
as a
out, 'cause
practical
my
matter, they
understanding was their term was dated wise, or the term of date, and I always understood that they left. But I'd have to talk to a couple members that were there in a previous lifetime, or look at minutes.
The way the language is right now is very confusing. Because they get appointed to a term of 4 years.
Right.
And that term can be a term of 4 years beginning. For somebody, it could be January 15th, for somebody, it could be February 1st, for somebody, it could be February 15th, depending on when they were appointed. The idea of having a fixed 4-year term establishes a full term. And if there's a delay in appointment, the term doesn't begin when they're confirmed. It confirm, they basically are filling out the remainder of the term that commenced on February 1st. That was the idea of establishing a firm term, because right now there is no firm term. It's unlike police and fire, it's not coterminous. It was a term of 4 years. And that's
but-
interesting because
Are you suggesting, Steve, that if some reason I left there, somebody mayor left an opening to July 15th, appointed somebody July 15th, they're doing a 4-year term?
No,
July
no,
15th?
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the mayor, let's say the mayor comes in office, he came in office in November, and got around to making the appointments at the next council meeting at the end of November or in early December. If the council liked 2 of the 3 appointments, they approved them. And so those people's terms would begin when they're approved, because there was no starting date. So they'd have a 4-year term commencing, let's argue, on December 1st. The third person who had one minor problem comes back 2 weeks later, they get approved for a term of 4 years commencing when? Probably on December 15th, whatever the date is. The idea of locking in you have right now a term of years, but you don't have a commencement date. And all we're doing here is establishing a commencement date of 4 years. And it gives the new mayor an opportunity to get people in before that February 1st commencement date. I thought it was a pretty simple, clean fix.
Which would be January, would be the first business day after January 1st.
Mayor can't appoint before that time.
Well, that's, their term ended, so we just went through that scenario until somebody's appointed. Which would be the second, Tuesday of the month.
So you're saying that their term should commence on the date that the mayor's term begins, even though he can't appoint them until that date? Do whatever you want. I mean, it's,
Well, like, if the mayor can get a special meeting of the council a week before the second Tuesday of the month, then so be it.
A special meeting.
I thought this was a resolved issue.
Right now, the charter requires them to meet the second Tuesday.
All right, should we have a vote on this? Do we need to vote on this particular thing?
You voted on it. You have, the February 1st is the date.
Oh, it's done, okay. All right.
You agreed.
You voted on that, but I'm just, I started looking at the police question.
I thought we also voted on the minority party representation bit, but
I thought you did too, but.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was already, I thought that was already done.
There were the 3 proposals for NPR. We voted on one of them that Doug brought up and it did not pass.
Oh, I thought we voted on all of them, okay.
I think that was, I'll have to
check my.
Tyler is correct.
Pretty sure that.
I think Tyler's right. Yeah.
Steve, I have a question, somewhat related, to what Doug, was questioning. There is an NPR requirement for boards and commissions, both in the charter and also, under state statute. If there's a vacancy on a board or commission, because of failure to appoint or a resignation, then the NPR requirement is not satisfied. Or under such circumstances, what that causes it to be not satisfied is the what happens then? Is the effectiveness of the board or commission then invalidated until the NPR is satisfied?
I don't know if there's a case specifically on that, but there are cases where on a given day, the NPR might not be satisfied because somebody doesn't show up. And you can't hold it against the board if somebody chooses not to show up.
Right, but my question is different.
No, I know what your question is. But I don't know what the courts would do by extension if there's a failure to appoint. If they found, it depends on the facts, I imagine. Ed's a trial lawyer, I'm not. But it seems to me that if the court were to find that the mayor did not want to appoint somebody either from that party or not from his own party, because remember, NPR does not require dollars for donuts, or dollars for dollars. If a Democratic seat is vacated and the majority is Republican, the body can approve an unaffiliated member for the minority party seat. Doesn't have to be a Democrat. It's different in the council situation where you have a replacement that has to be of the same party in the elected situation. So I imagine if a judge found that it was being held up for some partisan reason, they might find that the actions of the body should be void or nullified. But I think that's very extreme because there's no absolute requirement to appoint somebody of the opposite party. So the idea of rancor would be would not be much of an issue. So
Right, but the NPR
I'm not sure
language,
there's a remedy, except a political remedy that the mayor's not doing their job.
right.
As long as there's a political, as long as there's a mechanism to appoint, to appoint someone to fill the vacancy. And unless that mechanism is not followed in for arbitrary reasons or reasons that are not rational in some way, then I think you can proceed and any action or vote of that commission or a board is legal, notwithstanding the fact that there is no technical minority party representation, because the mechanism is there to do so, and there's no there are no facts that there's no basis to suggest that the failure to do so is arbitrary or in some way like a political or intentional or otherwise irrational. It's not a clear answer. It's really very fact specific. Because you can't invalidate the actions of a board or commission simply because you don't have the right number or the right ratio of parties being represented for that particular vote. Because then that would really throw a monkey wrench in the whole system.
It would give minority parties a veto, essentially, by not showing up and allowing for the distortion in minority party representation. So the courts have not dealt with it on a meeting by meeting basis. It's only on the overall composition.
The quorum issue, that's all it is. Got a quorum, you can vote.
Not a quorum.
That's my 2 cents.
Again, just my question was related to the vacancies that would be in violation of the NPR requirement. That only. And it happens. I mean, it probably happens frequently.
It does happen frequently, I'm sure.
It happens next door in Stamford. You have holdovers.
It happens in Norwalk.
Well, but you've had holdovers in Stamford that have been on the board for 7 years. Because the mayor doesn't want to appoint with the current composition of the Board of Reps. And they don't have the ability to hire counsel. They need 31 votes to hire counsel, so they can't challenge it. It's the problem. So it does happen. It does happen. So.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground. Do we have a motion to adjourn the May 5th meeting? Thank you, John. All of it. All right, Steve, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining, and we'll check in on the 15th. All right, take care, boys.
Thank you, everybody.
Make phone calls.
Yes.